what we're going to do, just to give you a little bit plan and to keep this organized, inshallah, we're going to look at how a mother's stress impacts her children. And now I know all of you are not mothers, not all of you have children, but inshallah, hopefully, what we share today will you will find it useful, and you can also apply this to other relationships like family members, siblings, um, in your marriage. How does your stress impact your relationships? So it's not just for children, although the focus is on children, but you can apply this to other relationships as well. Why are mothers stressed out and emotionally unavailable? And then we're going to look at three elements that massively impact our emotional lives. Um, Three tools that you can start using today, straight away, to feel more of a sense of control in your life, inshallah. Right. So first of all, sisters, there's so much information on the internet. You can go on YouTube and you'd find this information that this we're just constantly overloaded with so much information. So the thing is, we haven't come here just for information. I like to think that we've some sort of a connection or something that I've shared, or maybe there's something that has made you come today, or maybe there's something that you want to change. There's always a reason behind us doing what we want to do. And I believe there's always some sort of emotional reason. We've always felt something, or maybe there's something that we've gravitated towards, or maybe there's something that I've said in maybe one of the posts where I've shared about this kind of resonated with you. So, sisters, the first question I want to just reflect on, inshallah, there's two types of people in this world, I believe anyway. There's people who focus on obstacles and problems, and then there's another set of people who look at solutions. They're searching for how do we make this situation better? There's two types of people. One group of people who are ones that focus on, problems, and then you've got another group of people who are looking for solutions, and they see opportunities in problems, and they'll see growth. They'll be able to see the lesson in it. So, inshallah, it's a bit of a reflection. But first question I want to ask you, sister, something that I want you to just reflect on is, what is it that you want in your life? What is it that you're searching for? Are you searching for love, compassion, understanding, peace? Is it excitement that you want, determination, motivation? What is that feeling that you want in your life? What is the vision that you're working towards? What is the purpose for you attending this workshop, and what would you like to take away from here today? So hold that thought, sisters. Just hold the thought, because inshallah we will be discussing that later on. And maybe some of the things that you are thinking at the moment, I'll be able to help you with those while we're here today, inshallah. So then let's move on now, sisters. So first thing is, just wanted to share a little bit about why is this subject so, why is it such a passion for me? Why am I so interested in this topic, and why does it matter so much to me? Well, sisters, just a little bit of background about me. That's me in the photograph at the bottom with my mom, and that's my dad and my mom with my sister and my brother. I was born into a family of a mother who had lost her first son, her very first child. She lost him at 4 years old. And after that, my mum had three disabled children, one after the other. She had three disabled daughters, and that's one of my sisters. They're in my dad's lap. Her name was Farad. She passed away when she was 14. And before that, my mum had two other daughters before Farad, Somia and Shazia, who also had a long-term mental and physical disability. And that's my brother in my mum's lap. And he was the first child that my mum and dad had who was well and healthy, emotionally, physically, mentally. Alhamdulillah, he was the first child that they had who was well and healthy. And then after that, I was born. So 2 years after I was born, my mum lost her eldest, my sister Farid. She passed away. And that was just 1 month after my mum gave birth to my sister as well. So my mum was going through a lot of emotions when I was born. She had already experienced the loss of her child. She had three disabled daughters that she was caring for. By the time I was 3 years old, she was pregnant at the same time while trying to look after me as well. And I just like to say, the way I see it, my mum just wasn't in a very good place for a very long time. And I'd say that this just carried on as time went on. One of my brothers had basically suffered from cancer when he was younger. And then when I was in secondary school, my mum had another disabled child. So in total, my mum had five disabled children and five children who are well and healthy, alhamdulillah. The reason why I'm sharing this, sisters, is because as I was growing up when I was younger, I felt like I never really went to my mum to share my problems with her. If ever anything happened in school, primary school, secondary school, it was never a thing for me to go and share my feelings with my mum, to tell her like what was going on in my life, how I'm feeling. And like I never really developed that kind of emotional depth with my mom. We never had that kind of relationship where I could speak to her about things. I deeply love my mom. I have no grudges with my mom. I love her so much. But just to give you a bit of context about how that shaped my patterns later on in life, and I feel like it's so important for us to start with our own childhood, understand our formative experiences and how they've led us to us becoming who we've become. That's my dad, bless him. May Allah bless him with the highest status in Jannah. We lost him 2 years ago. And I deeply, deeply miss him because I did have emotional depth with my father. He was very much of an encouraging, loving, supportive father. He talked to me, asked me how I felt, but he wasn't always there, with the whole being the main breadwinner in the family. He wasn't able to be at home as much as I would have liked him to. But bless my mum, they had a very difficult start to life, a very difficult start to life. And for that reason, my mum was emotionally unavailable parent, and she wasn't able to emotionally, support her children or give them that love and that compassion and affection maybe that children ideally need. My parents were in survival. So let me now move on to now, alhamdulillah, I've got three children of my own. That's Eliza in the middle. I've got Ismail and Yusuf. The picture on the left when they were a little bit younger, and this side they're a little bit older now. Alhamdulillah, Eliza's 14, Ismail is 11, and Yusuf's 9 now. And the reason why I'm sharing this is in the beginning, when I first had my children, I'd say for the first 3 or 4 years, I was repeating very similar patterns to the patterns that maybe I had picked up in my mum's home. I was very, very focused on how clean the house looked. I was always in a hurry, rush to get things done. If the children's bedtime was 7:30, I meant it was 7:30. I was so autocratic. I was so, very rigid and very inflexible. I never considered my children's feelings. If I meant 7:30, you have to be in bed. You have to be in bed at 7:30. There's often times I'd kind of control my daughter. I feel very, very, embarrassed saying this, but I use the naughty step technique with my daughter because using punishment to kind of control her, to get her to do what I wanted her to do. And always I was using these sort of quick fixes, but I thought I was doing really well. I mean, everybody was fed, I'd made meals every single day. The house looked spotless. And everything was just getting done, but I was felt very burnt out and overwhelmed. I mean, I was taking my children to 2 to 3 extracurricular activities with the baby. Yusuf was the third child, and I just felt like I was doing everything, trying to be really quote unquote perfect, but at the same time feeling burnt out, not considering my children's feelings, trying to find quick fixes, using my anger to kind of intimidate the children into doing what I want them to do. And I just feel like everything outwardly looked perfect. It looked brilliant. I had Play-Doh games, I was doing painting, I was doing everything. But at the same time, I know deep down how much guilt and how much, sadness I felt at night when I'd go to sleep. Everything was getting done, but I just feel there was no consideration for the children's emotions. And generally, that's the way I was. I was quite reactive in my marriage as well. And I would get quite impatient with my family members and my sisters and brothers. I was very, I'd say, I wasn't in a very good place, and I would get quite offended very easily as well about things. Now, this led me to, subhanAllah, my own journey of growth, because all of that guilt, when I keep feeling it again and again, led me to go and try and find some solutions to problems, which is the reason why I took this path, starting from parenting into my own self-development, into trying changing, learning, growing, and being this different type of mum. And alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, I'm not saying this to brag, but I am a very different parent today. I've got such a different relationship with my children to how I had then. My children and me are very close to each other. My daughter shares with me things that happen in school, things that she sees. We're able to open up very open relationship conversations about things that maybe other parents might find uncomfortable. I've got my sons, alhamdulillah, I'm able to talk to them about things. We've got no fear in the relationship. They're not scared of me, but they kind of cooperate with me out of respect, and they don't want to disappoint me. It's more led from their side. And alhamdulillah, I'm able to control my anger. I'm in such a better place with my siblings and my other relationships as well. I feel like I've come to a place of acceptance and peace. And at the same time, I feel as though I do want to grow and evolve and be this example to my children of the things that are possible for them. Alhamdulillah, I did achieve my academic, degree and my legal practice course. But at the same time, I just feel as though I wasn't very fulfilled emotionally as well. So this is without taking too much time. I just wanted to share a little bit my reason for why I'm so interested in this, and I hope you found that helpful because I'll maybe refer to these things as we're going along and as I'm sharing the content with you, and I hope you do find it helpful, inshallah. So, sisters, firstly, I just want to talk about how does the mother's stress and overwhelm and burnout impact her children? So let's just look at when somebody is burnt out, someone's overwhelmed, someone's stressed out. This is called emotional dysregulation, basically. And when people are in a state of stress, when people are feeling overwhelmed, when people are feeling burnt out with their responsibilities, it's very difficult for them to be able to manage their emotions and respond in a healthy way. When you're not feeling in a good place and you have chronic stress and you're always stressed out, the feelings can feel so overwhelming, and often we can behave and act disproportionately to the situation. So if, say, a child will spill some food or somebody makes a certain comment, when you're stressed out and burnt out, you will not respond proportionately to what's happening. It'll always probably be a very disproportionate response. So you're getting really enraged, you're getting very angry, shouting, yelling, screaming, putting a lot of pressure on the children. This is a stress response. This is the way you're responding to feeling stressed. And there'll be like mood swings, impulsive reactions, and difficulty to calm down sometimes, myself included in the past. Maybe it take me a day or two even to calm down from something small that happened. I couldn't shake my emotions off. If I was feeling in a bad mood, it would consume me. If we had plans to do something, I'd find it very difficult to just like bounce back. This is called emotional resilience. I didn't have very much of that because I hadn't practiced it, because I hadn't seen it in my own mum. I wasn't able to, live something that I'd never been seen modeled to me. Another thing that often happens with mums that are very stressed out and overwhelmed, and something that I experienced with my mum definitely was her emotional absence. There's this feeling of a lack of emotional presence or this numbness from the parent. They feel disconnected. The parent feels disconnected from their own emotions. Therefore, they're unable to show those emotions to their children or be emotionally available for their children with affection, love, compassion. And also, there's a feeling of being emotionally flat, having difficulty to feel happiness, sadness, empathy, or gratitude. So, this is how stress impacts moms. And now let's just look at how does this stress affect a child. So, very young children and also teenagers as well don't have the perspective to understand that these external factors that might be affecting the mom's behavior has ha they don't understand that these things have nothing to do with them. They often believe that when someone hurts them, abandons them, or mistreats them, they think that it must be something to do with them. They think that they must be bad or they must be unlovable or in some way that they're flawed themselves. And this is just children, but also adults as well. Think about the time when somebody's mistreated you, when someone's not treated you well, someone's disrespected you, someone's belittled you. How does that make you feel? It can make you feel very like as though maybe there's something missing in you. Maybe you're not good enough. This is the reason why people treated you are treated that way. And if maybe you were different or maybe you were better, maybe people wouldn't treat you that way. So let's just move on, sisters. What normally happens when moms are really stressed out is that they start to dismiss their child's emotions, which means that the child will their feelings are not taken into regard, that they're not important, they're dismissed. So say if you hurt yourself, oh, you've hurt yourself, it's okay. Why are you crying about that thing? Stop being silly. Why are you crying about this thing? Sisters, can you just mute your audio, please? 'Cause I can hear some sounds in here. I'll have to find a way of how to permanently switch off the audio. Inshallah, I do want to talk to you, sisters, and I do want to have your feedback later on. But for the meanwhile, if you're joining, then can you just keep the audio on mute, please, if that's okay? When we dismiss our child's emotions, sisters, it's almost as though you're saying what you're feeling isn't important. You're not entitled to feel that way, and what you're feeling is wrong. What now happens with these children who have had their feelings dismissed over the long term is they stop thinking what they feel and think is important. So now they grow up in life, like maybe I've never felt as though like what I feel, or in the past I never felt like what I feel or what I think is important. So I never shared it with anyone. I never spoke to anybody about what I felt. And it was quite a lonely experience like that throughout your teenage years and your early 20s when you never really want to share your feelings with anyone because your emotions have been dismissed in childhood. Maybe you pick up patterns and these become your patterns. Childhood is a very important part of a child's emotional development. When moms are really stressed, they start overreacting with their children. So they overreact disproportionate response, as I said earlier on, to the problem. There's inconsistency. Sometimes the mums are overly loving and overly caring, and sometimes they're overly harsh. So this leads the child to feel very confused. And also children who do get inconsistent parenting, they're very confused. They feel as though, are they doing something wrong? They're afraid to try things. They're afraid to move, experiment with things because they're always afraid that they might mess up and, they may experience the parents basically, what's the word? Sorry, they may experience the parents' unhappiness with them because they've done something wrong. So they don't even try because they're so afraid of trying something because maybe if they don't achieve that thing, their parents will be disappointed with them. That was the word I was looking for, disappointment. Emotional unavailability is another common stress response where parents are so emotionally overwhelmed and burnt out that now the focus is no longer on their children. So it might be different issues in their life are sort of taking over and superseding the child. And then also the stress response when you have children, and as a mother, you use guilt, shame, or fear to control your child's behavior, which is what I did in the past, and I'm not proud of using the naughty step technique, telling the children on, sort of intimidating them into doing what you want them to do. Because we have inability to manage our child's emotions and inability to be able to manage ourselves. So now we just use this technique, but sisters, honestly, it doesn't last very long, and it's only a matter of time, particularly when your children become teenagers. It just doesn't work. So Alhamdulillah, thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so much that I was able to change my patterns in time and develop this sort of emotional resilience, this emotional capacity to be able to deal with things in a different way. Now, what's the reason why sisters are stressed out? Now, sisters, if anybody wants to sort of chip in here, please just you can just jump in and tell me what's stressing you out in a moment. But these are some of the things that I think these are the reasons why some mums are stressed out. I've speak to lots of mums on coaching calls, been doing a lot of one-to-one work over the past 4 to 5 years, and these are some of the things that I'm feeling in the community, in the Muslim community. These are the things that are stressing mums out. So firstly, it might be that they never bonded with their own mum as a child, and so nurturing and loving feels unfamiliar and difficult because she has no reference point, because she hasn't had someone model this to her. It's very difficult for mums to be able to recreate that loving, affectionate, sort of compassionate relationship with their child. If you've not seen something, it's very difficult for you to create that thing in your own life. Maybe there's the overwhelm of the practical responsibilities. We're worn out and exhausted as mothers, and then we place these unrealistic expectations and pressure on ourselves to do everything perfectly, to show up for everyone, to keep everybody happy, this people-pleasing pattern, which I heavily still struggle with, this people-pleasing pattern. This often comes from parent pleasing. So if you were a child who really wanted to please your parents as a child, you develop a very strong neural pathway to this pattern. And I'll talk about what a neural pathway is in a little bit later on, right? Maybe mums are emotionally cut off from themselves because there's certain pain to thinking about certain things. Maybe it's a childhood trauma or unresolved pain that she has. It's always simmering there in the background, it doesn't go away. Maybe there's problems in the marriage. Maybe there's family politics, family problems, other things that are creating stress in the mum's life, and she's now taking out on her children. This is the stress, but who is on the receiving end of the stress? Maybe there's loneliness. I've spoken to lots of sisters who feel very lonely. They have no emotional comfort or safe space to share their struggles and receive empathy and support. Like, as human beings, we need co-regulation. We're not designed to live our life by ourselves and to do everything by ourselves and go through our problems and struggles by ourselves. I mean, even in Islam, there's such a emphasis on going and seeking counsel, speaking to a trusted individual. Even there's a verse in the Quran in Surah Shura where it says, "Go and seek counsel, get guidance from respected members in the community. Go and seek help for yourself." Maybe it's loneliness that's creating that stress in life. So, sisters, what is it that maybe you're experiencing that's causing you to feel so stressed out? What is it that's maybe the biggest heaviness in your life? What is it that you feel? So this is the bit that I want to just change, create a bit of a shift for you, sisters. We need to raise our standards I know we're stressed out, we have all of these problems. When you have or a mother or a wife, as a sister, as a daughter, as a female in the family, you have a lot of power. And I don't mean this in a sort of big-headed kind of way, but you really impact the environment in your home. You impact your children, you impact your husband's emotional life as well. You make a big difference in your family life. Okay, I've just had somebody type something in the chat box. I'm just read this. So it says past trauma, past trauma. Thank you, sister. So I kind of sussed out how to do that. So brilliant. Thank you. So you create such a big impact in the lives of your family members, your children, your husband. The ambience of the home is created by the woman. I mean, I don't know if you agree with me or disagree with me, but I really feel as though women create such a big impact in the family homes and they are the foundation of homes. And this is the reason why Islam encourages us to educate our daughters because she will educate not just a generation, but many generations. And I also believe this when it comes to our emotional lives, when women have more control and able to manage their emotions better, shall it makes a difference to everyone in the family home. So you need to start raising our standard sisters from surviving to thriving. I know our parents in the past were in survival mode. We had our parents, you know, grandparents had been through war, they lived through trauma. Our parents had come from different countries, maybe to another country, maybe, like my parents had a very difficult start to their life. They had traumatic experiences. They were in survival mode. The thing is, now that we know we've got so much more knowledge, information, technology, we need to change our way of thinking and we need to move away from survival and move over to thriving. So I want you to ask yourself, sisters, right, if you are willing to make shift from reacting with frustration to responding with love and compassion. Are you ready to shift from feeling exhausted to feeling joyful and energetic? Living in survival to loving this chapter in your life, whatever it might be, whatever this chapter is in your life, are you willing to love and accept this chapter of your life as though you've chosen it yourself? Are you willing to move from struggling and stuck to growing, evolving, and upskilling yourself? I know I speak to so many sisters about financial issues, they're struggling with their mental health, they're not feeling in a good place in their marriage, but yet they would rather just carry on struggling and staying stuck there rather than embracing, growing, evolving, upskilling, learning, changing, growing. Do you want to stay stuck and struggling, or would you like to move, evolve, and change yourself and grow and see what that feels like, sisters? Because if you don't change, nothing changes. You just keep continuing the same patterns of the past again and again and again. So when you manage your emotional life, you can achieve whatever you want. And you can be a powerful example to your children of what's possible for them as well. And I'm not just saying this because it sounds good. So I really believe once you're able to manage your emotions, you're able to manage your life, you're able to, you know, work through your difficult emotions. Honestly, everything's available to you on the other side, sisters. You're able to take more chances, you take more risks, you can work through your fear. You can do things that are slightly uncomfortable for you, and it makes such a massive difference, not just in your relationships, with your physical health, with your financial, capacity, with your children, in every single aspect. Everything changes once you start to manage your emotional life. It can change everything in your life, sisters. So then let's move on. So the first thing I just want to share with you, sisters, is that in order for us to create this change from surviving to thriving, it's one very important thing that I'd like you to understand is that we are in control of our emotions. We are the master of our emotions, basically. We are not like a cat or a dog or a bird who have got limited cognitive ability to be able to manage their emotions. We have emotions like every other creature in the world, every other animals in the world, but alhamdulillah, we are the highest form of creation, which means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a very special ability and a very special part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex, which we can use to be able to help us to manage ourselves. We're the highest form of creation. We can think about what we're feeling and we can choose a different response. This is what it means to be human. So we're not like a bird or a cat or a horse or any other animal, because they are very instinctive. They just act on their emotions. We're human beings. Human beings can feel something, notice it, and then ask ourselves that do I want to respond to this um, trigger, basically? Stimulus and response. There's a stimulus. For human beings, we have a space where we're able to choose how do we want to act, what do we want to do here. Okay, the feelings there, I'm feeling angry, but how do I want to respond to this? How do I want to express my anger? And we can choose our own emotions, and we can intentionally choose how we want to feel. And we don't need to wait for something external to happen in order for us to feel, you know, amazing positive feelings. I was speaking to a sister recently, and she said that, something about her house, that she's waiting for her children to move into a bigger house. And she's feeling very frustrated with the house being small and the children, living she felt as though it's a tight space. So she wants to move, and she's just feeling very, very frustrated, saying, I don't know when we're going to move. And, this frustration, so she's waiting for herself. She's waiting for them to move into this new house. And she feels as though when she moves into this house that she will feel happier, and she'll feel love, and she'll feel excitement, and she'll find peace in that house. Sisters, you're always waiting for something to happen in your life, and we're always waiting and looking for happiness to come when this thing happens. But the sisters, the thing is, I don't know if I'm going to explain this really well, but when you get to that thing, when you do achieve that outcome, whether it's a bigger house or whatever it is that you want in your life, whether it's weight loss or if it's business or if it's more money or whatever you might want in your life, sisters, you will still be the same person. Your brain will still look the same. Your habits and patterns will still be exactly the same. So the only difference will be you'll have achieved this thing that you want, but your feelings and emotions will still be exactly the same, because which is the next thing I'm going to teach you is about the brain. The brain is molded based on what we do and the patterns that we create. So, sisters, what are the feelings that you want to experience? And I think and I feel, and if there's any other feeling that jumps out to you, I feel like we all want peace deep down in our life. We want to experience joy. We want excitement. We want happiness. We want to love and feel loved. We want meaning in our life. We want compassion. We want to feel safe. This is what it means to be alive, isn't it? This is the human experience. This is what we want in our life. You don't need to wait for your external situation to change in order to feel these emotions. Just checking the chat box. So I've got contentment. Subhanallah. May Allah bless all of us with contentment. Right, so sisters, I don't want to go too sciencey on you, and it's just something very quickly. I want to just explain something to you because you might find this helpful. I found this really, really helpful. And I'm really, really into neuroplasticity, how the brain changes based on our patterns and habits, and how we can completely rewire and change our brain based on the way that we do things. So, what basically happens, I'm just going to explain this in a very easy way, the way I like to understand it, the way that I understood it, or the way that I remember it best. Just imagine you have a piece of thread, basically, and each time you see an apple, and the apple tastes good. This is just a simple example, right? Now, each time you eat the apple and it feels good, you know it's an apple and it feels good. So you've got one thread. The next time you eat the same apple again, another thread's attached to it, and then another thread's attached to it. Now, say you've had an apple about 30 times now, you have about let's say 30 threads that are joining together. This is what's happening in our brain whenever we have an experience and we link a feeling with it. The brain creates these synapses, and the more that we do this thing more and more, the more layers of thread is joined onto this thing. And now what happens is, can you see the photograph? There's some thicker sort of parts, and there's some that are very thin, and there's some that will be really, really thin like threads in the background. Can you see them? So what's happening is when you're doing something, this isn't just about emotional. This could be a pattern about something that you eat and you like, something that, for example, if you had an apple in childhood and that always made you vomit, you might create a neural pathway to dislike apples. It might not taste nice to you, or you might have a strong dislike to them. Your brain keeps linking apple with bad feeling, apple with bad feeling, apple with bad feeling. Now you grow up and after all these years and these experiences, you just don't want to try an apple anymore because of that experience that you had in childhood. And this is the way our brain is formed. Not just for apples, but everything, relationships, the way that we deal with anger when somebody speaks loudly to you, how you what you do in fear, what your fear response is, your brain is constantly being shaped by your experiences, the way that you do things. If you're somebody who leaves some things unfinished, your brain believes that this is, feeling and action links together and it fires new neurons together. And now all of your brain is becoming, subhanAllah, created in this way. Your patterns, this is habitual patterns are made through the brain and the synapses that are created. I hope I've explained that easily. I mean, there is more of a technical way to explain this, but I want to just keep it nice and easy so you remember what I've shared with you. Now, sisters, in exactly the same way, our brain overnight when we sleep, there's something called synaptic pruning, which means the habits and patterns that we don't use anymore overnight, the brain does a clear out. It starts to notice, oh, hold on, there was this thing that we learnt in biology in year seven. Oh, we don't need that anymore. So it gets rid of that thing. Or maybe there's another thing, something that you have done once or twice that you no longer need. The brain realizes, oh, it's been a certain amount of time that we haven't done that, so let's get rid of that. The brain overnight when we sleep, it's constantly clearing out the synapses that it no longer needs. So some synapses become stronger, and the ones that we don't use are becoming weaker. And in this way, the brain is constantly changing. It's changing on a physical level as well. And they found this. They've done a lot of research in neuroplasticity about how the brain is actually plastic and it can change as we have experiences and how our life changes. The brain itself can change as well. Now, think about it, sisters, that if you have a certain pattern and you keep doing things in the same way again and again and again, you're choosing to do that thing because this everything we do is a choice in our life. But then your brain is becoming more and more and more stronger to do things in that particular way because you keep repeating the same pattern again and again. Now, if that means yelling at someone when you get angry, if that means, there's like a quick fix way to shut your children up, whatever it might be, if like you're feeling uncomfortable and you're not expressive with your emotions, you don't talk about things in a, in a kind of mature way, that becomes a pattern. If you, for example, like, some people like to eat when they're not feeling a good place, it's called emotional eating. When you start eating, you're reinforcing and strengthening patterns in your brain because of the way you do things every single day. And subhanAllah, the good thing about that is, and the amazing thing about that is that all of us can change our patterns and we can create these new neural pathways and we can start to do things differently and our brain will support this. It's like when you learnt to drive your car, you learnt for a certain period of time, maybe a year, 2 years, and you had to think about it. And now I bet you when you get in your car, you don't even think, you're putting the keys in, the car's starting, you're driving it. You might not even be thinking about where you're going and your brain just takes you there. SubhanAllah, we've got such an amazing computer that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. It processes everything and it makes everything so easy for us. So if you start doing something in a new way, sooner or later, that new thing that you're doing doesn't feel so hard anymore because your brain creates a neural pathway. It makes a habit. This is what habits look like. But I thought you might find that helpful because we can create change in our life. In the beginning, it feels difficult because our brain doesn't have a neural pathway. But as we strengthen that neural pathway more and more and more, that thing that we want to do or the way that we want to do things gets easier and easier, inshallah. So just a quick science lesson, just keeping an eye on the time as well, inshallah. Now, sisters, there are three different ways to master your emotions. Remember, you're in control. You master your emotions. Your emotions are under your control. You have the master software plan that you're the one that's in control, subhanallah. So the three ways that you master your emotions is, first of all, it's to do with the focus, your focus and attention and your beliefs. And I've kind of put them both in the same category because I believe that the things that we focus on, are we focusing more on negative things or positive things? Are we looking at things in a certain way? Are we thinking something isn't possible? What are our beliefs and where did we even get these beliefs from in the first place? Because more often than not, your beliefs about the way that you live your life, what's possible for you, what isn't possible for you, have been picked up within your formative years. Now think about it, if our parents were in survival mode, in our childhood, a lot of the beliefs that they had at that time maybe didn't serve them and might not serve us as well. So you've got a big bank of beliefs that you've picked up from, could even been teachers or friends that you hung around with, or maybe it's been picked up from the Western culture. Maybe there's beliefs and ways that you look at things that aren't serving your life at the moment. So that's the first thing. It's to do with our focus, what we focus on and what we believe affects our emotions because our thoughts create our feelings. Now, when we think something in our mind, we feel as though it's just a thought. It's not just a thought. These thoughts, the ones that we lean in on, really affect our physiology. It affects the hormone, the concoction of hormones, the very special sort of cocktail of hormones running in our body. It's affected by the way we think creates our feelings. So that's the first one. Secondly, our language. This is, each one of these things is there's so much depth to each one of these topics, but we want to touch on each of them and give you one tool, inshallah, for each one that you can start using straight away in your lives. And hopefully, inshallah, I pray that you do feel a difference by using these tools that I'm going to introduce to you. But this, I'm just touching on these. I mean, I could talk about each topic. We could discuss each topic for a whole hour. Secondly, our language and the language that we use when we speak to ourselves and the language that we use when we speak to others and our emotive language, the way we describe what we're feeling and whether we have that emotional vocabulary or not as well impacts our emotions. So for example, if I'm feeling angry, if I feel like I'm feeling angry, that impacts how I actually feel. But now if I have a vast emotional vocabulary, I'm able to say to myself, no, Nadia, you're not feeling angry, you're feeling irritated, you feel frustrated, you're feeling annoyed, you're feeling disappointed, you're feeling sad, you're feeling lonely, you're feeling left out. What is it that I'm actually feeling? If I keep saying I'm feeling angry, it really affects my self-awareness, doesn't it? If I don't even have the words to describe to myself what I'm feeling, how do I know what I'm feeling? It's very confusing. You're feeling all of these feelings, like your chest's getting tight, your heart's racing, your arms are clenched, there's something simmering in you, but you don't have the words to describe that feeling to yourself. Now, just imagine for a second you was feeling all these strong emotions and you can't describe them to your loved ones. I'm not able to describe to my family members, my children, siblings, my husband, how I'm feeling in that moment. Now, if I can't ascertain how I'm feeling myself, how do I ever describe that to anybody else? And how do I ever communicate what I'm feeling? And then it's so confusing. They'd never if I can't understand how I'm feeling myself, how do I describe that to somebody else? And for example, my husband would be even more confused at what's going on with her because if I don't have the right words to describe how I'm feeling, it just affects my relationships, and those relationships obviously then it's a loop that impacts how I'm feeling as well. So I believe it's so important, not just for ourselves, but our children as well, to expand our emotional vocabulary, learn about like what am I feeling now? What am I feeling? And I'm always doing this with my children, not like as a lesson. It's just as I'm speaking about it, I'll ask them, are you feeling? Are you feeling irritated? Are you feeling annoyed? Were you feeling left out? Are you feeling disappointed? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling lonely? What were you feeling that day? Like I'll just keep introducing words so they also, when I hear them say it, they understand, oh, this is what I'm feeling now. I want to expand their emotional vocabulary, but in order for me to expand their emotional vocabulary, I need to have that myself. If I've not been able to do that myself, how do I then teach something that I've not done for myself? So it's so important for us for our own self-awareness first. I need to know what I'm feeling, particularly with women. We go through a menstrual cycle as well. So the language we use and our self-talk as well impacts how we understand what's happening with ourselves as well. And then when you're able to ascertain what you're feeling, you're able to ask yourself, why am I feeling that thing? So now it's not just about I'm feeling disappointed. Why am I feeling disappointed? Why am I feeling left out? What is it behind? Because the easier thing, sisters, to do is to blame somebody else, but when you start living this life from surviving to thriving, you start taking accountability for how you feel. And this is what we're doing with the language. Once you start to use the right language and you know what the emotion is, you can go on and ask yourself, why am I feeling that thing? The third one is our physiology. Now, this is a powerful one, very, very powerful. SubhanAllah, how we use our body affects our emotional experience. Honestly, this is so powerful. And I myself, it's been about, say, 3, 4 years or so. I regularly go to the gym every week, 3 to 4 times a week. I'm at the gym. And I do notice how much the way we use our body impacts our emotional experience. Our physiology, our body is an organism in itself and is constantly communicating to every cell in the body how it's feeling. And Our body doesn't use language, words. It doesn't understand words. It understands feelings. This is a language. Our feelings are communicating to every cell in our body what we're feeling. So if, for example, I've just had an exercise session. I'm really, had a good exercise session. My body will release endorphins into my body. I will feel that good feeling. Maybe it doesn't feel nice while you're exercising, but after you leave, it feels amazing. And it helps every cell in your body feels alive and it feels there's so much oxygen going in the body as well. So the movement, not only that, our facial expressions, how we use our face, whether it's smiling more, whether we're laughing, whether we, like if you want to feel like amazed or then you're like, wow. And if you want to feel excited, there's this raised eyebrows and like, there's more like expression in your face movements. There's so many different like nerves in the body that are communicating to the brain, telling the brain what we're feeling and communicating what emotion we need to be feeling based on how we, use our face. So if I'm smiling, that communicates to the brain that we're happy and it's releasing a different type of cocktail of hormones into our body. So all three of these things affect how we feel on a day-to-day basis. Now, we can take so much control over how we feel, or that's one way, or we can leave it to external circumstances, how somebody's going to treat us, what someone's going to say to us, the traffic, the weather, how well something goes or doesn't go. Would you rather take control of your life, become a master of your emotions, and take control of your emotional life rather than leaving it to external circumstances, waiting for somebody else to come and compliment you and say how amazing you are, waiting for people to come and, make you feel good, waiting for it to be sunny, waiting for yourself to be like in holiday mode. I mean, you can't always be on holidays all, throughout the whole year, or else I'd absolutely love to do that. But you can't always rely on the external world to make us feel good. We need to start taking control for that. So let me give you three tools now. So I'm just going to give you one of each of these things that we just talked about. So I'm going to give you one tool for focus and beliefs, one for language, and one for physiology. And inshallah, I want you to start using these straight away from today and start to notice if it's making any difference in your life. And I really pray that it does, sisters, because I know how, disempowered we can feel when, we feel as our emotions are taking over our life and, we just feel like we're a slave to our emotions. We're not slaves to our emotions. We are masters of our emotions. We have, subhanAllah, so much control over ourselves, our body, and our mind. And if we start using these things, you can start notice it makes such a massive difference from how productive you are to how you use your time, to how you speak to other people, to the opportunities you reach for, to like, the courses you'll take to upskill yourself, to, the sort of things that you might push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. Makes such a massive difference from scrolling on Instagram all day long to achieving amazing things in your day-to-day life. And every small step that we take in our life creates massive change. Have you ever seen how when a plane is going in one direction, and if they just only slightly change, drift in just a small change, in 5 years' time, let's not even talk 5 years, in 6 months' time, if you make small, tiny changes in your life, it can make such a massive difference to your life, sisters. Just small changes in your life create huge change in our life. So, okay, so I'm just going to give you one tool each, and then inshallah, hopefully, if you start using these tools in your life, and I pray and inshallah that you do notice the difference. So, firstly, there's this thing called cognitive reframing, and whenever I'm coaching any sisters or whenever I'm working with any sisters, I always introduce this tool to the sisters because I feel it's like something that you can do very easily, something that you can just it can help you momentarily in the moment. It can be really, really helpful. And it's such a self-awareness tool as well, because you start to notice what you're thinking, what is your brain saying to you. Remember, there's your brain, which is always running and working and creating thoughts and beliefs and thinking things all the time. And then there's your conscious mind, which is really in charge. So you've got the brain, which is always thinking all of the time because that's its job. Our brain's job is to create thought, to constantly keep thinking more and more thoughts all the time. That's its job. And there's our other brain, which can really supervise that part of the brain and notice and consciously be aware of what the brain's saying. So what I want you to do, sisters, first of all, is start noticing what you're thinking, first of all, and don't accept every single thought that you think because our brain's job is to create thought, and not everything the brain suggests or thinks is correct, and the brain is constantly changing and thinking all of the time. So I want you to catch the negative thought and notice when you're thinking something helpful, something unhelpful. So when you're thinking something unhelpful, just notice that. For example, what are you thinking? You might be thinking something like, "Oh, I can't handle this. This is too much," or "This is so hard for me. It's overwhelming," or you know, thinking those kind of thoughts. Start to just notice them at first. It really helps if you do this on a piece of paper and a pen. I find for myself just to get it down on paper and just write down every single negative thought I'm thinking. Just write it all down on paper and then just look at it. Look at all those thoughts that are in front of you and ask yourself, is this thought 100% true? Is this really true? And is there another way, or is there another way of looking at this? And then start to think about all the other different perspectives that you can look at this situation in. So just to go back to the example, what is another way to look at this? It could be, I'm doing the best that I can at the moment. Okay, it's challenging, but I'm doing my best. I'm trying my best. And just that small shift in cognitive reframing can change the way that your brain experiences what you're experiencing. It can change your emotional state that you're in just by changing and shifting the way that you look at something from one way to another can help you feel completely different feeling. Maybe it might take a bit of time, but if you sit down and do this as a journaling exercise, you can really start to see things from different perspectives because the way that you see things, particularly the first instance, isn't always the most rational thought. Secondly, sister, so this is to do with language now. I want you to start, inshallah, taking ownership for how you feel. And how you do this, you start using I statements to take ownership of your feelings and be able to express them constructively. So what you do is, sisters, normally if there's some situation you're feeling very aggravated or annoyed or upset or frustrated, the default mode is to blame somebody else. So it's his fault, it's her fault. She made me feel this way. They're so, you know, that they triggered me, and it's very, very natural for us to do that in the beginning. So please don't beat yourself up if you are doing that. That happens all of the time. The very first thought that we will think will normally be, oh, somebody else has caused me to feel this way, but nobody else can ever make you feel anything. The feelings are happening in your body, and the triggers that you are feeling are to do with your formative experiences and your emotional bank account that the emotional, what would you call it? Like the whole experience, that whole library of emotions that you have. They're yours, they're your experiences, they are happening in your mind. So nobody can make you feel anything. So you got to structure your language in this way where you say, I'm feeling frustrated when this thing happens because I'm feeling. So always say, I'm feeling this way. This it's really helpful to do this when you're communicating with your loved ones as well, your children. I often say to my children, I'm feeling irritated, annoyed when you're making a lot of noise because I'm feeling really tired, or I'm feeling very stressed out when you go to sleep really late because I feel as though, as a mother, I should be, telling you to go to sleep on time because it helps in the morning. Always take ownership for what you're feeling rather than, pinning it on the other person and making them feel as though they're doing something wrong. And I think that that's really helped because I often do say this to my children that, look, it's not you, it's me. I'm feeling annoyed, I'm feeling irritated, I'm feeling tired, maybe I'm feeling a bit exhausted right now. Maybe my what do you want to say, my battery's running a little bit low. That's one sometimes I say at the end of the day, particularly when they want to start playing up, I'm not in the mood for it. It's like my battery's running really low now. I need to recharge. You guys need to get in bed and go to sleep. So it's taking ownership, and when you take ownership, not only does it help you because you're hearing yourself saying these things, it means that you won't lash out so much to the other person, whoever it might be, your children or any other family member, but you're also able to help them see, and you're also modeling taking ownership of your feelings. So start to use I statements. I'm feeling X, Y, Z. Whatever you're feeling, I'm feeling stressed out, I'm feeling annoyed, I'm feeling upset. Because we never sort of say to somebody that I'm feeling happy because of you, I'm feeling excited because of you. Often we feel like we're feeling excited, we're feeling determined, we're feeling, joy, we're feeling peace. We like to attribute that towards ourselves, but when it's a negative emotion, why do we try to deflect that so much to somebody else, making them feel as though they're responsible for how we're feeling? Our triggers are our responsibility. How we feel is something that we need to deal with and take ownership for that as well. So that's the second one. And this is another part of language as well. So I mentioned this earlier on, so I won't go into too much detail about this, but expanding our emotional vocabulary. When you have a broader range of emotional words, you can articulate your feelings more precisely. So, like I mentioned this before earlier on, if I'm frustrated, I feel overwhelmed, I feel worried, I feel sad, I feel um, left out. There's a whole emotional wheel of all of these different emotions. I'm feeling excited, I'm feeling determined, I'm feeling, um, motivated, I'm feeling at peace, I'm feeling irritated. What is it that you're feeling? Because it's all of these different emotions. And if you have a better vocabulary, you're able to articulate them feelings better, not just for yourself and your own self-awareness and for you understanding what you're feeling yourself, but also it helps us for clearer communication with your children and family and helps to create healthier interactions, inshallah. So this one I mentioned earlier on, sisters, is that your physical state influences the emotions that you experience. So I talked a bit about exercise and how that impacts our body, our facial expressions. But a really, really powerful one is our breathing, because as an organism, our body notices the shift in our breathing. When we're fearful, our breathing changes. When we're excited, when we're at peace, when we are feeling scared, our breathing changes. There's just a shift in our breathing because it happens sort of automatically, and the body knows this. The body knows that when the breathing changes to this shallow sort of breathing, slow breathing, it knows that something's off. So what we need to do is we need to learn there's many, many different breathing techniques and many, many different breathing styles and everything. This is the very first one that I learned and I found it most helpful. And honestly, I kid you not, I was on the dentist's chair recently and obviously my mouth was open for 20 to 25 minutes. She's doing a filling, a really deep filling. And, my legs were trembling because of the fear of what was happening and I couldn't help it because I knew I was at the dentist on a rationally I knew what was happening, but my body was feeling a lot of fear. I could feel it. My heart was racing, my legs were sort of trembling. I could feel like even a little bit of shake in my hands. I at that time sat and I did my box breathing technique, and subhanallah, it really worked. And I did notice the shift in my legs twitching and the stress levels calming down. I was calming, I was communicating to my body that, look, everything's okay. Don't worry, we're safe. It's okay. And that's how you communicate to your body with your breathing. So you just need to sit down or lie down somewhere, like the Prophet ﷺ told us in his sunnah. To sit down or lie down when you're feeling angry, when you're feeling irritated, if you're feeling scared or fearful, just sit down and inhale, take a long, deep breath, 4 seconds and count. So one, two, three, four, go. And then 4 seconds out. And just imagine it's like a box. So four, 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 four. And that completes one box. Now that box, I want you to do it 4 times. So there's a top four breathing in, exhale, inhale, exhale. That's one box. Complete 4 boxes. And before you exhale, hold the inhale for a couple of seconds. And subhanAllah, many, many things happen from doing this. First of all, you increase your oxygen levels in your body. Secondly, as an organism, your body, your cells understand a language of physiology and emotions. So your body, you're communicating to your body, not just with words, but also with the breathing. You're telling your body, look, it's okay, we're safe, everything's okay. Just relax, just calm down. And also close your eyes and just visualize that as you're doing this, all of the tension's coming out. You're breathing all of the tension out. You're releasing the tension with every breath that you take out. It really affects emotions and your experience, and you can really calm yourself down, particularly when you suddenly are triggered. You hear someone saying something to you, and your first reaction is to just say whatever you want to do. I want you to pause and try this box breathing technique and just start to notice how you're able to feel a sense of control in your life. It's not other people that we are afraid of. It's not, why do we hold ourselves back in life from experiences, from going and trying new things, from, even failure, failing at something, trying something and failing at something, or getting out of our comfort zone? We're afraid of when these negative feelings and emotions hit us, will we be able to cope with them or not? If you practice box breathing and you've got these tools and you know that you are your own best friend and you've got your own back, inshallah, you'll have so much more confidence to walk into situations, even situations that might feel uncomfortable to you. You're willing to do them because you've got your own back. You know how to manage your emotions. You've got emotional control. You're your own best friend. You know what to do. You know how to support yourself. So your physical state influences the emotions that you experience. So benefits of box breathing are it calms the nervous system, it enhances your concentration and focus, it reduces feelings of stress and anxiety, and it promotes mindfulness and presence. So when you're breathing, another thing that happens, subhanAllah, is you're breathing, it cuts off you can't think and focus on your breathing at the same time. So it brings you into the present moment. Whereas when you're in a emotionally charged sort of state, you're in your brain's going wild. This thing happened. What? Maybe there's this thing, maybe that thing, maybe this thing's gonna happen. Maybe she's thinking that, he said that, she said that. If this, it's just driving you crazy. As soon as you do this breathing exercise, it's just everything stops because your mind can't focus. You try it yourself, sisters. Your mind can't focus on the thought and do this breathing exercise at the same time. By you really mindfully doing this breathing exercise, you'll be focusing all of your attention on your breath, and you will firstly notice your body calm down. Your mind won't be able to do that breakdancing thing that it's doing at the moment. So, anyway, sisters, just want to tell you a little bit about a membership that, inshallah, I hope to start, inshallah, in November. And I'm going to start it in November, actually. Got to reframe my words there a little bit. The Safe Space membership, the focus of it is emotional control and helping sisters to be able to gain and manage this. So when you're trying to do something by yourself, it's very difficult to be able to create this change and create the neural pathways and create change in your life. But when you do things as a group, it's so much more easier and much more of a fun experience, as well as something you're more likely to continue doing long term. It's a sustainable sort of changes that you can make when you're doing things together. So the focus of the Safe Space membership is emotional control, parenting, family and relationships, communication skills and boundaries. And all of this helps us create more of a abundant sort of life. Growth happens in safe spaces when you feel safe and you feel like you're not in, you're not like, oh, you don't need to fear anything. You can talk about what you want. You can be openly vulnerable about your situations. You can get the support, you know, and you can have that kind of space where you can let your guard down. At that time, you become receptive to change because you're not like thinking, oh, what's this person going to think? What's that person going to think? You can just be really open and honest about your struggles, what you want to change, how you're thinking. And once we do this together, it's such a beautiful experience because I've seen this happen with sisters. We need co-regulation in our life. Not everything in our life was supposed to be done alone. And this is amazing that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made these relationships in our life. We were supposed to rely on one another. We're supposed to ask each other for support. There's something that I struggle with. I've still struggled with this, asking for support, asking for help, showing vulnerability, um, you know, talking about my struggles. But as time's gone on and on, I've decided to become more vulnerable. I've started to share my struggles with my loved ones. I've started to be open and honest because I'm not perfect. I have flaws. There's things that I need to improve on. There's areas that I really want to work on myself. And I, alhamdulillah, at the moment, I'm in a counseling training group. So I get every week, I'm there, and we have an amazing, beautiful space where I'm achieving that there. I've also started my counseling sessions. Getting out of our little circle, we have a circle of maybe about 10 people or 8 to 10 people in our life that we keep meeting. And it's just the same patterns and the same thing that's being regurgitated again and again and again. We need to start, going finding spaces where we feel where we feel safe and start to get like support, coaching, learn and expand ourselves and grow our emotional capacity. And thank you so much for joining and taking time out for being here. But in the meanwhile, sisters, before we, finish off for the day, inshallah. Inshallah, thank you so much for joining, and inshallah, God bless you. Keep me in your dua, sisters.